Pluto in astrology is all about power and transformation. Pluto can represent a death and rebirth that you've experienced in your life, and wherever you have Pluto in your natal chart can show you where you've experienced the most intensity throughout your entire life. But Pluto allows you to turn all of that pain into power and transform into a more powerful version of yourself. Hi, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here we like to talk about astrology, numerology, and everything written in the stars for you. I've been a practicing astrologer since 2017, and here on this channel, I share my knowledge with you about everything written in the stars. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the planet Pluto and what your natal Pluto placement means for you based on the house that it's in. In this video, I'm going to go through all 12 houses to give you more of a sense of how your personal Pluto placement relates to you and the power that you have in your life. When I like to think about Pluto, I like to think about the power that it brings us. Pluto is all about power, transformation, and it can show death and rebirth in a sense in order to ascend to the highest level of yourself. Let's start with the first house. If you have your Pluto placement in the first house, this can show a lot of power and transformation in your own physical appearance. We're talking facial features, hair color, your wardrobe, the way you appear to others. Even something like your name has a lot to do with your first house. It also has a lot to do with how you view yourself and your own self-perception. It's how you present yourself in the world and how other people see you outwardly. When you have Pluto in the first house, you might experience a lot of intensity as it relates to how you view yourself and how others see you. You could have a very different appearance than other people, and because of this, you seek to transform your own personal appearance over and over and over again. You could decide to get plastic surgery. You could decide to change your wardrobe every season. You could also be somebody who changes their hair color all the time. I also like to think that Pluto has a lot to do with our physical identity. Also, having this placement, you might decide to get a ton of tattoos or something like that. You might have more of an intense appearance than other people. Maybe other people see you as a little bit more intense looking than other people, or other people could in turn find you extremely beautiful if you have this placement due to the amount of transformations that you brought your appearance. The wardrobe changes, the hair color changes, the facial features, the makeup, all of those things. People might view you as very, very attractive with this placement. Having this placement, you might have in the past experienced some bullying for your appearance, or other people might have been more intense or tried to push you down because of your appearance. And due to all the pain that you went through with having Pluto in your first house natally, you turned all of that into power. Through your life, you then begin to be able to step into a power using the very thing that people bullied you for in the past or tried to push you down for in the past. Instead, you can turn all that pain into power and become very well known for your appearance in doing so. If you have Pluto in the second house, throughout your entire life, you've experienced very high highs and very low lows with your own personal finances. This also has a lot to do with your own self-worth. So maybe you've experienced bullying or other people trying to push you down due to something about you. They didn't want you to feel confident. They didn't want you to feel like you're the top of the world or you're this confident, powerful person. They felt jealous and vindicated that you felt that way about yourself. So they tried to tear you down because you presented outwardly in this way, because of the jealousy and the vindication they felt towards you. However, even though that happened to you, and you might have even experienced the dip in your finances, due to all of that negativity and backlash you felt throughout your entire life, you can then rise above that and turn all of those things that everybody tried to push you down for and turn it into power and become somebody who will step into their own power later on in their lives and become very powerful when they turn all of that pain and the words that people chose towards you, turn it into a business or some sort of business model where then you can profitize off of the very thing that people bullied you for. And due to this, again, Pluto can bring a lot of power in your own personal finances, so you could easily attract a lot of money through your life. But in order to get there, you might have to go through some sort of transformation and go through your low rock bottom period in order to rise to the very, very tip top. If you have Pluto in your third house, you might have felt that throughout your entire life, people could have tried to push you down or bully you or gaslight you into thinking that you are not as smart as you are. They could have used your appearance or your outward expression to be like, oh, this person isn't as smart as they appear because they are X, Y, and Z. I'm going to try to push this person down because of X, Y, and Z. You might be somebody who is quite intelligent and is quite smart. And due to this, other people could find you as a threat and try to hurt you and try to gaslight you into thinking that you are not this powerful, intelligent, smart being. And because you went through all of this turmoil and people could have tried to gaslight you with your intelligence, you might have found that because of all of that, like, you are already really intelligent and really smart, but because of all the things that other people did to you, you might have felt that, oh, I need to work harder and overcompensate for this. So you could work really, really hard throughout your entire life in order to transform and take all of that intelligence that you gathered throughout your entire life and turn it into power, where then you can make a living and be self-sufficient off of your mind and prove all of the people who tried to tear you down wrong. You'll turn all of that pain that other people projected onto you and turn it into a power that you can then use in order to become a very successful person. If you have Pluto in your 4th house, you might have had a lot of intensity in your home life. You might have experienced at a young age, a lot of people in your family passed away. You could have experienced a lot of intensity as it relates to a mother figure or women in your life. You might have found that women throughout your entire life have tried to tear you down or knock you down a peg due to something about you. There could have been something about your personality that they just felt very triggered by. And so they tried to knock you down. They didn't like that. But you will eventually turn all of the pain with, like, also your domestic home life. There could have been something about your domestic home life that you have felt that you got torn down or you weren't as great as other people or your peers. So you tried so hard throughout your entire life in order to work really hard in order to rise from the ashes and turn all of that pain into power. And you might find that you're able to protect yourself as you take the knowledge that you gained from having Pluto in your 4th house and turn it into something where you can then rise above all the people trying to knock you down, or the home life situation that you were in that was very intense, and be able to learn from those things and then be able to rise into a higher version of yourself later on in life, where you can then live in the house you want to live in. You can surround yourself with the people who you want to surround yourself with and be more emotionally intelligent throughout your entire life in order to protect yourself from negativity and gaslighting from other people. If you have Pluto in your 5th house, you might have a lot of power in your own personal creative skills. You might have found that you have this talent and gift early on in your life, and throughout your life you work really hard in order to hone your skills. You might have found that other people in your life have told you, oh, you can never make a living off of being a creative person. There's no way. You can't be an artist but also be able to be successful. You could have felt like there's been this conversation throughout your entire life, and even though you're a talented person, they could have told you that you couldn't do that for some reason. And so you're like, well, this is my talent. This is what I'm good at. So, like, why are you guys acting like this? Throughout your entire life, you've worked to become stronger and work to rise above all of these people who have tried to tell you no or tried to push you down throughout your entire life. And you might even become very, very famous for your creativity as you work harder and harder in order to hone your skills throughout your entire life. With this placement, you could even go to like a very well-known school for arts and be able to become a music artist or a content creator or somebody who creates things for a living, and everyone will be able to recognize you for that later on in your life. You might also work really hard in order to create stability for yourself in order to be able to do the thing that you are so good at. If you have Pluto in your 6th house, you might find that throughout your entire life you've had some health issues. You could have had a severe allergic reaction to something. Maybe you have a peanut allergy, or maybe you had back issues. Maybe you had a very debilitating illness in your early years or even throughout your life. There's so much intensity as it pertains to your own personal health. You could have been in the hospital for some reason. There's been some intensity as it pertains to your own personal health and things that have happened throughout your life. Maybe there's something very intense about your day-to-day life and day-to-day routine that is not 100% ideal. You might also find that when you get into the working world, you could have a lot of intensity with coworkers and bosses with this placement. You could have found that there's been a lot of things that have happened to you that are unideal. However, you can turn all of that pain into power when you start to work harder on your health and you take the pain from the very beginning of your life and you work hard to rise above all of that. You might even find that with Pluto in the 6th house, you can find a lot of power at work if you use it in the correct way. And there you could find a lot of power in your day-to-day routine. You could even be somebody who makes content online about doing what I eat in a day's or daily routine, as you find so much power in that. Later on in life, you'll find a lot of power in your day-to-day routine and your work life and things like your coworkers, even if you have experienced pain in your past. If you have Pluto in your 7th house, you could be somebody who experiences a lot of intensity in your relationships. You could go through very intense themes with your one-on-one relationships, your best friends, your marriage partners, your significant other. You could find that like throughout your entire life, you've had this theme of just intensity. However, you have the unique opportunity of really gaining a lot of power from this. When you have Pluto in your 7th house, you'll have a lot of people who find you very attractive as well and want to be in a relationship with you. And due to this, you can really be able to be somebody quite famous or somebody who is seen very publicly as somebody very attractive by a lot of people. If you post on social media, people might just recognize you for your beauty if you have this placement because they all want to get in a relationship with you. And if you work with that power, you'd be able to become very successful throughout your entire life. If you have Pluto in the 8th house, having this placement, you could have paranormal experiences, you could have hauntings, you could be somebody who easily talks to spirits, you have a lot of power in magic and the occult practices, you could be somebody who easily has spiritual information or can easily gain information from the universe. You're a very powerful person and could communicate with spirit guides or something like that throughout like your entire life. You might find that your entire life kind of revolves around these things, and you are somebody who is able to really find power in this. Having this placement, you most likely have gone through some traumatizing things throughout your entire life. There could have been something that happened to you. Maybe you were in a house fire. Maybe you have some sort of physical trauma or emotional trauma from something very intense that has happened to you. However, because of this, you're able to rise above all of that and protect yourself and find more power in the things that have given you trauma in the past. If you have Pluto in the 9th house, you might have a lot of power in higher education as well as travel. So you could be somebody who in your past, maybe you had to work really hard for your education and you care so much about being educated and being intelligent and knowing a lot about certain topics that interest you. You could really want to be in higher education or even work in higher education in some way. You could want to be a university professor or somebody who works in that industry, and you could really want to work there or own a college or be in power in a university in some way. You might want to be a dean at a school or the president of a school or somebody who owns a university. You might find that your life kind of revolves around higher education and going different places. You might want to travel to other universities. You might not necessarily want to stick to one, but you'll find a lot of intensity in higher education and college and universities throughout your entire life. You might find that you're very interested in those things, and because of this, you could be in a position of power in that industry. If you have Pluto in the 10th house, you might have a very magnetic public image and you might become very famous for being in the public eye. But not just this, you might have very high highs and very low lows with your career. Pluto brings a lot of transformation in your public image. Many celebrities have Pluto in their 10th house, but that's because they find so much power with being in the spotlight. Being in the spotlight and being in the limelight brings them some sort of power into their lives, and it's hard to stay away from being in the public image. People who are like addicted or obsessed with being famous have Pluto in the 10th house as well. However, it's a little rocky. It's not 100% easy to be there because Pluto will karmically put you in there and karmically take you out of there. It'll force you to be on a certain level of publicity. It'll force you to be there. It wants you to really find a lot of power in your public image and use that to your advantage, no matter who you are. You might also find that you are in constant relationships in order to gain more visibility in the limelight. You might be more famous than you would think because you find more power there. You could only want to date people who are famous as well, and also find that doing this just gains to your fame, but you could have a lot of drama there too, and people could feel very, very strongly towards one way or the other towards you. You might also have a very intense image as well, depending on the sign that's in your 10th house. If your 10th house is in Scorpio and you also have Pluto in Scorpio, you might be very well known for very intense things happening to you. You might be well known for being a victim of bullying. Oh, this person is so famous. She's dated so many famous people too. Her whole life is in the limelight. She's so X, Y, and Z, but she had a dark backstory. That's kind of like having Pluto in the 10th house. If you have Pluto in the 11th house, you find a lot of power and transformation in groups of people and friendship groups. You might be somebody who can easily stand out in a crowd of people. However, if you get into friendship groups and if you get into a group of people who you mingle with, your social networks might put you in that social network and rip you out of it. So much transformation and intensity with groups of people as well. Maybe you have so much drama and you get PTSD from that situation. There could be a lot of intensity and drama and things like that happening if you have Pluto in the 11th house. But because of that, you gain a lot of wisdom throughout your entire life and you become more socially smart, and it allows you to stand out in a crowd of people and gain power in being in a crowd of people. Many music artists who work with crowds of people all of the time, whether they're doing shows or posting on social media, have Pluto in the 11th house because they are very magnetic and have a lot of power there. If you have Pluto in the 12th house, your entire life might have been kind of isolating and alone. You could have been in the hospital or had darker themes happen to you throughout your entire life. You could have found that lots of dark things happen to you. You could even work in the hospital system in some way as well, as Pluto tends to bring power to that area of life, and 12th house can include hospitals. It also includes some other dark things, but I like to focus on hospital systems as it's a little bit less dark as some of the other things we could be talking about as it pertains to the 12th house. But you could find yourself in a position of power in one of the areas that the 12th house rules over. Hospital systems, you could be the president of a hospital, you could be a surgeon, you could be somebody who is at the very top, you could be a president or a CEO or somebody in power and in leadership in a hospital system. That could be what you're in, and you find a lot of power there. You might also find a lot of power in your story of your upbringing of kind of being isolated and alone and suffering. You might find that that's where you find the most power in your life. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Elizabeth. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post new videos every single week.